there guys, what's going on? So far we have learned the basic widgets as well as a few layouts available as part of the Swing framework, but we were designing those dummy items which were dead. By that word I meant that if we click on simply, for an example, if we take a button and if we click on a button, nothing would happen just with the concepts we have learned now. So now in this video we shall be introduced to the event handling, which is the magic. Event handling is the things can be defined as something happens when the user clicks on a button, such as simply displaying a text on the window on next to the button or anywhere. We can adjust the layouts like that. So I hope that you might be already familiar with the term event and also event handling. Event is the term is actually self-explanatory for what it does. So without much explanation, let's get started. Let's see them in action. So I have already created all the boilerplate codes and all the projects. Everything is already being done, and I hope that you might already also be quick like me. Okay, then let's proceed by declaring our variables. So let's not forget that the variables are private, and that such that these variables belong to these specific class. And now let's proceed with declaring variables. First of all, we'll require a button as well as a label. Okay, in this video we shall be primarily depending on only single events. That means that only a single button as well as a single event occurs. And in the next video we shall be learning about multiple events, how to make two buttons, and the behavior of two buttons are just different or just opposite. I hope that you understood what I said. If so, the next video will be the answer for that. So first of all, let's declare our button and name it as b1, the variable or object, whatever you call it. Then we are having another private variable that is a label, and let it be L1, this J button actually. Now in the constructor, let's first of all instantiate the button. Before that, we need to set the layout. What shall be the non-grid layout exactly, since it is really weird looking. Now what about any grid back layout or grid layout, which we shall go with the grid back layout, since we need to practice a little bit, since the grid back layout involves concepts like the grid back constraints, which seems a little bit confusing but not actually. So we shall pass the object of the grid back layout here, grid back layout. Okay, and that's fine, done, perfect. Now we shall instantiate our button, new J button, and what shall be on the button? A text. Now simply click me. The button asks the user click. Okay, an exclamation, and we shall add the button to the frame or the window b1. In the previous video we were introduced to the frames, and I hope that you might already been familiarized yourself with those concepts of frame. The whole window can be actually treated as a frame, and since we are extending from the JFrame class, we are extending all those properties here as well. So now let's instantiate our label as well, and equals new label. And what shall be the label? Actually, first of all, it's nothing, it's just a blank label there, and let's add the blank label to the window as well. You will understand what I meant by this statement in a while. Before that, we need to set the grid back constraints as well. So let's instantiate the grid back constraints class. As usual, the object name is C, and new grid back constraints, okay, with empty parameters, and that's fine. Now our button will be at the position c.grid. The x coordinate of the button will be 0 0. The x coordinate will be 0 as well as the y coordinate, and for the y coordinate it will be 0, grid y, fine, grid y 0. And for the label, it will be on the next line actually. So let's make it, okay, that's fine. Now, okay, before the add statement, let's define the coordinates. Grid, all these spelling mistakes happen. Grid x equals 0. Okay, we need to make the label appear just below the button, and so the x coordinates should be the same, but the y coordinate must be incremented by 1, since the label should appear on the next line, very next line after the button. So the grid y should be 1 actually. Now it is required to add C as well. as you might noticed in the previous videos, we are also required to add the gridback constraints object as well in order to make it effect, in order to have the effect of this code, giving those, specifying those coordinates. Okay, that's fine. Now let's talk about the action listeners. Before that, we are having a button as well selected. Okay, now we need to set an action listener. I hope that you might have heard action listener. If not, that's right. That's okay. Now, action listener, as the name suggests, listens for an action. Here, an action means an event. Yeah, sorry. An action means like something like the user clicking on a button, and in this case, it is the action that it's action that being done. So, what should happen when the user clicks on a button? In our case, we are going to design the code in a way that when the user clicks on a button, the label gets displayed, and by default, the label there is nothing actually. When we first of all run this code, the window will only constitute a button, and that is why we instantiate a label with an empty parameter, and that will work really. So when we click the button, the label will be the label will be displayed, and again if you click the button, the label will disappear, and it goes on happening. So this is what we are going to design in this video. So I hope that you're excited for this, because it is the first time you're introduced to this event handlings, and you're going to give life to those dummy objects there. So first of all, let's proceed with the adding the action listeners. So in order for an event to occur, in order to make that happen, we need to first of all set an action listener. So action listener listens for an action, and as I have mentioned earlier, here the action is a user clicking on a button. So it is a button which listens for the action. So here the object of the JButton class is b1, and so let's use this. There's a method known as add action listener, which we can use here. And before that, we need a class as well. If you watched my introduction video on the Swing series, I also, when I showed you the general structure of the code, we were also having that some event class, something like that. Within that, we were having the action performed method, and in this video we shall be using this third import statement as well. As you can see now, it's being showing unused import statement because it is only used for the event handling purposes. Now we shall be depending on this import statement as well. So now let's proceed. First of all, we need a class. We need to instantiate a random class, simply giving a name event. Let's name the class E, and we'll be going over to the definition of this class in a while, event actually, and let's pass in the object of the event class here in the parameter of the add action listener method. I hope that will be okay to you. Now let's get outside the constructor, and we shall begin a new class, and public class, and the name is event, as we mentioned it above, and this class should implement the action listener interface. Okay, that's fine. I hope that you might already be familiar with those classes and interfaces. As in Java, it doesn't support multiple inheritance. Java takes the help of those interfaces when we are required to get the ability of multiple inheritance, and that's not of much significance here. Okay, showing some errors here. We must be declared public class abstract. Okay, it is showing that we should override. We should define the action performed method, and so we shall talk about it. Now the action listener is an interface, and by our class implementing the action listener interface, if you're familiar with the interfaces, actually interfaces just only define those, not definition, but actually just declare those methods actually. So it doesn't have the body part, just the name of the method, and it is a return type void. And in the case of this action listener interface, we are having a method named as action performed, which, as the name is self-explanatory, we should code it up in the body of the method. Action performed, what should happen if a certain event happens. In our case, if a button is clicked, what should happen, and that thing should be coded up in the body of the action performed method. So let's code it up. This is a return type void, and make sure that you spell it correctly, action performed, and it also takes a parameter that is of action event type. Action and is a predefined class. Action, don't be frightened by this jargon code. very simple actually. If you practice a while, it will be very simple for you, and everything's fine. The curly braces are okay. Now so first of all, we have added an action listener for the button, and that is self-explanatory. And adding action listener means that the button waits for the user to perform an action, in this case clicking a button, and we have also supplied the object of the event class to the add action listener method as a parameter. Now later we are providing the definition of our event class, and the event class should implement the action listener interface. Now as I mentioned earlier, in the interfaces only declare those methods, and it is the duty of the class that implements the interface to provide body or the definition for those methods. And so we are giving some the definition for the action performed method. And now our definition will be that this is the area where we should make things happen. What I meant by that. So what should happen when the button is clicked? I hope that idea will be clear to you. Now let's begin coding up that part of this code. So first of all, what should happen when our button is clicked? As I have mentioned earlier, we are going to design our code in some way that when a button is clicked for the first time, when we run this code, our window will only constitute a button, but when we click that button, a label will be displayed just below the button, since we have given the x and y coordinate of the label appropriately, in such a way that the label should appear just below the button. And when we click on the button, the label is displayed, and if we again click on the button, the label goes away. The label just disappears. Excuse me for those. And now let's proceed. First of all, we require an integer variable. Let it be x, and the initial value will be 0. Okay, that's fine. No, we can set it to 1 exactly. Okay, that's fine. Now let's have an if condition here. Now what should be inside the body of the condition? Now if x equals 1, so it is true, since the initial value of x is 1, then we should ask the label object, that is L1 in this case, and setText is a method which sets the text as the name suggests, and no explanation required since it is self-explanatory in the terms of its name. So we should set the text to be, now you can see words here. So I hope that you might have guessed what happens here, and we can also call the rest part of the code, and then we can come back here. Then else if x equals 0, okay, then we shall set the text of the L1 or the label to be blank, and giving empty parameters means just blank set text actually. And so if x equals 0, we should set over here, we should set again x back to 0. Hope that you were able to understand that statement there. And first of all, the initial value of x equals 1, and first of all, we provided the parameter of the, while we instantiated our label, we provided the parameter as empty, simply as a pair of single quotes there, a pair of double quotes actually. That means the label shouldn't be visible on the window. And now when the user clicks on the button, we have also used an integer variable x and set it to 1, and the initial value of x is 1. So if x is 1, then we should set the text. That means that if for the first case, if the user clicks on the button, the label is being displayed, and it sets the value of x back to 0, and it again and now if again we press the button, and now the value of x is 0, and so this case will not be executed, and this case will be executed, and it sets the value of which sets the label to blank back again. And so we also require setting back the value of x to 1 here, since on the next time the user clicks the button, the label should be redisplayed. And this is a very simple logic. I hope that you will be able to understand this. It's very simple. Now let's run the code. Actually, we have done everything perfectly all right. Came out of the constructor. Now first of all, let's build the project. Everything is being running on the background. Oh, successfully. I'm hoping that everything will be fine, but let's have a look. Debugging is a part of programming. Without debugging, what coding actually? We are having a button, and if you click the button, oh, the label is barely visible since we haven't provided the enough size there. So let's fix up that bug. As I have said, debugging is a part of programming. So I hope that if we, as you might have noticed, while we press the button again, the label doesn't go back. So what was the problem there? First of all, the value of x was 1, and we set the text to this particular text, and it sets the value of x to 0, and it should reach here the next time. Anyway, first of all, let's. So what is okay? So what I have done is just simply increase the length of, simply just giving some space there, and that would occupy the whole sentence here, as you can see here, and that will be fine. I think a simple tweak there, so the whole label is capable to be displayed in that line. Okay, but it's not cleared up. What happened there? Let me check it out. Please bear with me. Okay, increase the space a little bit more so that the entire label fits there. So if we change it a little bit, let's fix the issue, guys, that we were having recently. I have made the integer variable declaration x out from the class event and made it at the top of the main class single event, along with those other widgets, the declaration of other user interface widgets. I just declared the integer variable and made it globally accessible. And so the changes made are the variable declaration has been removed from the action performed method, and it is being moved to the on top of the class. So that's easy, and I'll explain you the reason. So earlier we were not able to achieve the full functionality. We required that when the user first clicks on the button, the label should appear, and when he again clicks on the button, the label should disappear. And that was we were not able to achieve that, since we were declaring the variable here inside the action performed method, and that resulted in that buggy thing. And we initialize the variable with the value of 0, and every time when the user clicks on the button, this method is being triggered, and the program control flow comes here and sees that the value of variable is being initialized to value 0, and only this if condition was only being executed, and that is why we were not able to see that the label being disappeared. And I hope that you may got the idea what I was saying. So we just changed the variable declaration from the inside of the action performed method to outside, along with all other labels and buttons. And so that's it. We learn how to fire events, the action performed methods, what actions should be performed on firing those events, such as what should happen when the user clicks on a button. And I hope that it was a wonderful experience. Anyway, you have just learned a magical thing that you have just given life to your dummy widgets there, and you should be happy about that. And so that's all for this video, and as usual, make sure you subscribe to this channel, leave a thumbs up. Also, if you have any ambiguities or comment or questions, leave them below on the comment section, and share it if you can. And thanks for watching.